don't think the majority of people even realize that a lot of the civilians from Gaza came through afterwards to do so much of the pillaging, the raping, and which then leads me to another question, which I wanted to ask you this later on, but you touched upon it, which was, what is, in your opinion, of the Gazans, the Palestinian people, that do you believe that they are pro-Hamas? Do you think that they are scared because of what the repercussions? Where is their mindset? Because they've been indoctrinated from such a young age, as you were. They've been traumatized, all the rest. What do you just by showing that a lot of them went across to do all these atrocious things? Can you kind of talk about that a little bit? Because people separate the two. They're like, Hamas is different from the civilians, from the other Palestinians. Is that accurate in your opinion?
Look, it really doesn't matter whether they are pro-Hamas or not. What really matters, are they anti-Israel or not? This is the more important question. And the entire Palestinian society, not only the Palestinian society, the Arab nation agree that Israel is the greatest enemy and Israel must be destroyed. That's the mass majority of the Arab world. And this is where you need to focus. Because if we want to go into the rabbit hole, who do they support? Do they support Hamas? Do they support Fatah? And there is a moderate and there is extreme and then you go into this rabbit hole, you never finish. Mm-hmm. There is something that they agree on, that Israel does not have the right to exist. And this is obvious today in this war, that we don't see powerful Arab countries publicly, or at least, let's say, Palestinian figures, influential figures that step forward and say, we condemn Hamas atrocities, we condemn Hamas genocide. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go, did they vote to Hamas? Yes, a majority voted for Hamas. It has been a while. So some people might argue and say this is invalid because the election was back in 2006. So this is why I don't even feel the need to go this route. Mm-hmm. And we saw what happened immediately after October 7. They brought hostages, teenagers, youngsters, infants, and the people of Gaza were celebrating.
They're cheering.
It was a great victory, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. When one of the hostages escaped for 4 days, the civilians who captured him and brought him back to Hamas. When a society validates genocide, and this is practically what happened on October 7, by all standards, that was a genocide committed by Hamas, the ruling authority government of Gaza. And the Gazan people did not make their position different than Hamas. Instead, they gave Hamas cover. They still give Hamas cover. Even if you want to forget about the Gazans and think about the West Bank, which is far away from Gaza, not connected to Gaza, and they have a lot more freedom. And they are actually the rival party of Hamas. They did not condemn Hamas publicly, meaning that they are justifying Hamas genocide, meaning that they are agreeing that Hamas act of a genocide was part of what's so-called resistance, which in my opinion is not resistance, it's not nationalism, it's not self-defense, it's only one thing. And that is genocidal attack motivated by very dark hatred and revenge. And this is the tribal mentality I told you that is coming from the 7th century. Because this is what tribes used to do to each other. If they had an account to settle, a tribe would go and annihilate everything in their way, take women and children, as booty and sell them to slavery or enslave them and kill all men. This is the mentality. This is what it means, the tribalism of the Middle East. Same mentality. Nothing changed. When I saw a Hamas savage holding a teenager girl from the neck, dragging her into a vehicle into the unknown, that was the image of what Hamas is capable of doing, which basically they want to dominate. They want to take over territory, they want more power, and they want to enslave everybody, everything that comes in their way. Everything becomes their property. To this savage, that was not a prisoner of war as much as a booty, as something that he owns now, something that he can bargain for money, for mass murderers, for whatever it takes. So if Hamas' approach was, let's say if their fight was a political fight and they were fighting against military, and there was a female soldier that Hamas had some respect, they had some protocol to follow, treat them as war prisoners for exchange of soldiers been captured during the war, I understand. But you are capturing a teenage girl, kidnapped her from a party, into an underground city you built under Gaza to bargain for exchange with mass murderers. People who killed and wounded thousands of people. Someone like Ibrahim Hamid and Abdullah al-Barghouti.
By the way, that's also, I got like, I'm sorry we're jumping around a lot here because I have all of these things written down about the exchange, the 50 innocent civilians that they stole and grabbed for a bunch of 150 terrorists. And the idea that there's all these people out there saying, oh, well, Israel had all these innocent people, these children as prisoners. What you can talk to this, like you were in prison in Israel when you were a spy, which we still haven't gotten to. We will. Can you talk about the fact? Can you explain what really happens in the prison? Are those people innocent?
My prison experience was another level into this chaos. That chaotic world.
Absolutely, we haven't even gotten to that. But I'm just going by what you're. I'm going by what you're saying.
Yeah, this is what we can do. You know, at once, just small. That's all I can. First of all, my language betray me. Every time I try to talk about this human experience in this chaos, and I wish it was just a trauma of a child. And things got better. No, things just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I was trying to explain, I make this analogy of that the gap between me and Hamas just kept widening and widening and widening until now, that there is a difference between them and me is like a universe, a galaxy. But my experience in prison was something very ugly and very different. And that was the first time I saw Hamas brutality on a much bigger scale than the scale of a child, than just being whipped or lashed by a crazy Islamic leader. In prison, they tortured and they killed hundreds of prisoners, and that was my imprisonment back in 1996. My first imprisonment.
So this wasn't the Israeli prison.
It was in Israeli prison.
This was the Israeli prison. Okay.
Inmates killing inmates, basically. Hamas security wing trying to figure out who gave information for the Israeli intelligence. In the process, they tortured, they killed many Palestinian prisoners in the worst possible way. 16 months in that term, day and night, the screams of those prisoners. How can I forget? Yeah, we're not talking about just you witnessed an incident, an ugly thing, a fight, someone got killed, then you go and you try to heal yourself from that trauma. Talking about I had to live with it for 16 months. And that's a monster my father helped establish. I lost my father at a very young age. When I mean I lost him, that he wasn't there for this project. So I had the authority to question the heck of it. What is it that we were doing that brought us here? Is this the project that he's getting busy, far away from my mother, spending most of his life in prison, or leading a secret life, orchestrating this monster that I'm just face to face with in prison? So that was the moment that where the childhood trauma, growing up in that brutal culture, all the injustice, all the chaos of the people that I did not like, was something. What happened in prison was something else. And this is where I start questioning Hamas. And not only questioning Hamas, this is where I start having a serious problem with Hamas in prison. And it was not accidental that the security wing responsible for the killing, the torture, the death in prison were the military wing leaders outside of prison. So after my release from prison, and the Israeli intelligence approached me, whether they knew my mental state and my hatred against Hamas, and I thought that I had a great potential, that I could agree to the work, whether they knew or they didn't know. We met around the perfect timing, where I was on a quest to destroy Hamas. And that was not only because of the trauma of a child. Now it became just a matter of justice. That the same group that killed and tortured hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in prison are the same group sending suicide bombers, targeting buses, schools, universities, beaches, killing everything in their way, including Holocaust survivors. So when the Israeli intelligence approached me with a proposal, hey, it's going out of control, this group sabotaging the entire peace process, they're killing people indiscriminately, it's your father's organization, but still, do you agree to what's happening? Are you going to do something about it? And they challenged me. They challenged me morally, and I was ready. Deep inside me, I was ready to fight this monster. And I agreed.
But how did they know? Like, go back a